Alright, Saturday the 13th of August, and we have a car show to attend tomorrow in Whitchurch, Stovie, which is not far from me, about, I'd say about a 5 to 7 minute drive away. So I thought what I would do is I'd come out and give the TR6 a nice coat of wax, since it hasn't been done this year. Figured we'd give it a little bit of a cleanup. I did take it to the car wash and cleaned it yesterday. Never did get a chance to get it waxed, so I'm going to try something a little different. This time around, we're going to try this Chemical Guys Hydro Slick, which is supposed to be a ceramic coating hyper wax, supposed to be kind of a new wax on the market. So we're going to give this a shot. From what I've read, it can be difficult to get off, and you definitely don't want to hammer the product on. Probably less is more, as they say. So we're going to give this a shot. I've already been using the Hydro Speed, which is the ceramic quick detailer, on the TR3, for example, so I've been happy with that product. So I think we're going to try this Hydro Slick ceramic coat hyper wax. Alright, nice evening in the garage to apply that Hydro Slick, and I have to say it went on easily, came off easily. Again, I think the key is not to use too much product and not to leave it on too long. I think the suggested application is to apply it in a cross-hatch pattern with either a foam block or a foam pad. We'll let it wait for 2 to 3 minutes, depending on the ambient temperature, and then wipe it off. So I did panel by panel, and that worked well for me. So the good thing about it as well is you can use it on chrome parts, on glass, as an example. So I did the bumpers in the back here, and they came up quite nicely. I did the windshield as well. It's supposed to shed water like something like Rain-X, so we'll see how that does. Anyway, I was quite happy as far as the applications go. We'll actually see how it looks tomorrow in the sun. A little bit difficult to see what it did to the car while it's in the garage and getting a little bit dark outside. It's about 7 p.m. at the moment. So anyway, we'll see how it does over the next little while in the elements. And we'll see how it looks on the field tomorrow. But again, I'm quite happy with how the product actually went on and came off. Car looks pretty good still. It's a 15-year-old restoration now, and it's had quite a few miles put on it, but it still shows quite well. I mean, I look after it and care for it, as you should, a classic car. So yeah, it still looks pretty good in my mind. Anyway, don't expect him to win any awards tomorrow. Tomorrow is more of a muscle car and hot rod show, but there will be a few Brits out doing a little British invasion of our own. So I'm sure we'll have our own little corner set up, so maybe I'll take a few shots at the show tomorrow. I'm not sure if I will or not, but we'll see you tomorrow out on the field. Alright, we're at the Whitchurch Stovie Museum car show on a Sunday. Beautiful day out here today, so actually a pretty good British contingent, actually. A Spitfire, really nice Valencia blue TR250. There's my 6. Nice Mallard 6. Mallard blue. Another nice 6. Morgan.
Yes, right. So there's things like accelerate in your car, all of this.
Beautiful rally-inspired TR4.
And the other thing is, I remember.
Actually, TR4A, I should say. MGA, Lotus, another MGA. MGB GT. Beautiful 75 TR6. So yeah, nice showing of British cars today. Alright, Saturday morning, the 20th of August, and the little British Car Club and Friends group is getting together for a drive this morning to Port Perry on a rather circuitous route, and a bakery stop along the way, among other stops. So here's the group so far. There's a few more joining before they set off. I'm seeing them off. I'm going to go home and work on the TR250 today. I've been away for a week, and my parts are in, so we'll drive the TR6 home and dig into the 250 while these guys are enjoying a nice drive today. Alright, as promised, back on the TR250 after our morning drive, and we're just looking at picking up where we left off, and that was to reinstall the Zenith Stromberg carburetors on this car. I was waiting on some parts from Moss Motors, and they've arrived finally. One of the critical parts was this fuel line from Moss, which is part number 376410. So this is the stock style fuel line that I needed to run underneath the the front and rear carburetors. This would fit something like this. I don't know if you can see that very well, and then lead up to the metal line where it's coupled with this rubber fuel hose. Now the metal line is a little bit long. This was obviously used from my triple Webers to feed the triples. So we're thinking of shortening this line a little bit to make it work for the Zenith Strombergs a little bit better, which means that I'll have to get a new line when we go back to the triple Webers, whenever that is. In the rest of the box of goodies from Moss, I've got some new filters, actually a complete filter kit from K&N, so we'll put those on after we've got everything adjusted and tuned. We've got some emissions lines there, as well as some more plumbing fuel lines required for the carburetors as well. So we also have the fittings for the emissions, so I think we're pretty much ready to go. Flame trap over there as well. So I think I have everything that's required. Here's our cutter for that metal tubing. We don't want to introduce any sparks in the engine bay. There's still fuel in those lines, so we're just going to be very careful when we cut that fuel line. So I think we're ready to go, so I guess less talking, more work. We'll get crack-a-lackin'. And one of the other things I was waiting for was the new olive for this water pipe that fits to the back of the water pump. So we've got the new olives here. We've ordered a few extras, so we have some kicking around for the next time. So we'll go ahead and put the new olive on, install this pipe, and then we'll continue on with our carburetor plumbing that's coming along. But I figured I'd put this pipe on. Unless I need a little bit of access here, it's probably easier not to connect that line up there yet. So I can sort of get my hand in and under there to be able to tighten this up as need be. Alright guys, making progress out here. I realize this is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I've gone with blue emissions lines up to the valve cover. I originally went with black, and then I was short a hose, and I had this silicone line hanging around, and I thought it might kind of match the spark plug wire, so I put it on there. I'm not sure if I'm in love with it or not, but we may go back to black, but for now it will suffice. We have the fuel lines hooked up. We're just about to add a shutoff valve, so I've got the shutoff valve that's going to go over on the fuel pump side of the car, just ahead of the fuel pump. Always good to have one of these in if you want to do any long-term storage. I find it really helpful. I've got one installed on my TR6 down here, as you can see, directly inline. I also have one on my TR3. They come in handy. They're also good to shut the fuel off to the carbs if you happen to have any problems with your carbs leaking fuel. You can shut the inline valve off. It also helps when you have a full tank of gas, because the gas gravity feeds to the carburetors in these cars, and if you happen to have a problem with your needle valves, then perhaps they're sticking open, you'll end up with a crankcase full of fuel. So I like to shut the fuel off after I go for a run. So we're going to go ahead and install this, like I said, on the fuel pump side of things before the fuel pump, probably just after the fuel filter. We're going to have to do a little bit of playing around over there. We're going to clamp off the line and make a few cuts, install this, and get ready to turn the fuel back on. And we're getting pretty close to being able to start the car on the new carbs. I do have the new vacuum lines hooked up from the rear of the carb to the distributor. I still need to get I think I have one of these downstairs in one of my parts bins. We've got a little clamp here that needs to go on the accelerator shaft to hold that where it needs to be. But other than that, we're making progress, but it's slow. I've had to make a few runs. I had to wait for these lines for the emissions, and then I found out I was one short, and then had to go out and grab some 1/4-inch fuel line. I only had 5/16 in stock, which is on the prior to the fuel pump side of things, so I had to make a few runs back and forth to the hardware or parts store to pick some things up. But anyway, we're making progress nonetheless, and we'll go ahead and we'll swap this shutoff valve off over there. Alright, we've got our inline fuel shutoff valve installed down there. I think you can probably see it. It's all plumbed in. Now, it's not as good as I'd preferred it to be. I'd really like to have put it before the fuel filter, so you can actually change your fuel filter out quite easily by just shutting the valve off. Unfortunately, that kind of puts it out of the way for me to be able to reach down in the engine bay here and shut it off easily. I'd almost have to get under the car if I was to put it before the fuel filter. So it's installed after the fuel filter. But if I have a problem with the fuel pump, which I've had before in these cars, it's easy enough to shut the fuel off and exchange the fuel pump out. I'm more concerned with the fuel pump than I am with the fuel filter. So anyway, it's installed, and for anybody that's interested, again, this was purchased off of Amazon. There is the part. I'm sure you could probably find that. I'm not sure if there's a part number on here, but it is a 5/16 fuel line in and out before the fuel pump. So there you go. Alright, let's move on to the next thing. Alright, if you've been watching the channel for a little while, you'll know that Alin was helping me with the wiring on this car, and we decided to put a fuse block in the car. Right now it's running a 100 amp fuse. We did a total measurement of the amperage used with all of the devices on in the car, so electric fan, headlights, signal lights, windshield wiper motor, everything running, and we were getting about a 25 to 26 amp draw. So obviously the 100 amp fuse in there is too big. So what I've done is I've gone and I've got a 30 amp fuse here, ordered again off of Amazon. We're going to install this now. We'll take the 100 amp fuse out. We'll keep that as a backup in case of emergency. We'll also grab another 30 amp fuse to keep in the glove box just in case. But we're going to swap that out now for safety's sake. And for anybody that's interested in these fuses, there's what they look like. So this one's 100 amp. I don't know if you can see that or not. Made by Blue Sky. Anyway, exchanged out now with 30 amp. And we're good to go. So we'll move on to the next project. Alright guys, Sunday night about 7 p.m. and we have the car now running on Strombergs. No leaks, which is good. Seems to be idling pretty well. We've balanced the carb, so the throttle shafts are independent of each other at the moment. And the car is up to temperature, so we're doing some mixture checks, etc. But sounds not too bad. Remember, it's got a cam in it, so it's a little lumpy. Again, no mixture set yet, but I'm happy it's running. So we're at about 1,000, just a little bit over 1,000 RPM. We'll drop that a little bit. So yeah, mission accomplished for tonight. Again, the carbs are pretty balanced. Showing about 10 there. We're at about 10 there. So we will get them to idle a little bit lower, as mentioned. They'll probably idle a bit lower once the filters are on as well. And like I said, we still got to do some mixture adjustments. So I think we'll call the night out here tonight, and then we'll get back out here tomorrow and play around a little bit with the mixture. All right, that's it tonight, guys. Thanks. Alright guys, just picking up where we left off. So yesterday we managed to get the carburetor balanced, so the airflow is balanced between the two carburetors. So now we're going to be working on the mixture. So the throttle connection is still disconnected, so the carbs are able to work independently from each other. We're going to bring the car up to temperature, and then we're going to go on to the next step, which is adjusting the mixture using this special tool that you insert through the top of the carburetor when the plunger is removed. And you turn it left for lean and right for rich, dependent on how the engine responds when the air valve is lifted 1/4 inch. And what I do for lifting the air valve is I take this screwdriver, and the actual width of the screwdriver blade is 1/4 inch. So what I'll normally do is stick the screwdriver underneath the air valve, and I'll just turn it on its edge, and then I'll know that I've lifted the piston 1/4 inch, and we'll see how the carburetor responds. Now, if you go to the Bentley manual, which I'm using, I always use, this is the Bible for the TR6, it's telling me how the engine is going to respond when I lift those pistons. So an immediate increase in RPM is a rich mixture, a decrease in RPM or stall is a weak mixture, and a slight increase followed by a return to normal RPM is the correct mixture. So we're going to actually follow this manual and see how the car responds when we're lifting that air valve. Okay, car is up to temperature, so let's do the first test. So let's take our screwdriver, We'll stick it in the air valve down here, and we'll flip it up on its edge, which is a 1/4 mil, and see how it responds. Here we go. Okay, increase in RPM. It does not drop back down. It continues to rise. So that would indicate, according to our manual, a rich mixture. So we need to lean that carb out. So here we go over here. Immediate increase in RPM is a rich mixture. So again, we need to lean that out. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that with our special tool and come back and do an adjustment. Let's check the secondary carb or the front carb. Same test. This one's a little bit more difficult to get the tool or the screwdriver in there, but here we go. Again, increase in RPM, so also rich. So we're going to lean these out a little bit, a couple of turns, and we'll come back and we'll do the same test. So here's the special tool, and we're going to go anti-clockwise to lean this mixture out. So like I mentioned, we're going to do 2 full turns on the tool. We're going to hold it in place here, and we're going to turn the hex key, which will in turn adjust the mixture screw down at the bottom here. It'll actually turn the threads up and lean this mixture out. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, we've turned that screw to lean it out 2 full turns. So let's try our screwdriver again. Okay, now it's telling me the mixture is too weak. As you can see, it starts to stumble and wants to stall. So it's a little too weak now. Try this one. Again, stumble, wants to stall. Mixtures are too weak. So we're going to enrichen it up. Back 1 turn, and then we'll check again. Alright, so we need to enrichen the mixture now, so we need to go clockwise in order to enrichen the mixture. So again, we'll put our tool in, we'll do 1 turn, and we'll check the mixture again. Okay, our last check here, so we're going to lift it again. So slight increase and return to normal, idle, the mixture is correct. And I think that's what we're getting. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that or not. So slight increase and return to normal. I think that's good. We'll do 1 more time here. Slight increase. Return to normal. So we're going to leave the mixture there. And then we'll do a plug read eventually to see how our mixture is doing, but that's good for our initial setting. So we'll turn the car off now. We'll go to the next step. Okay guys, we have the throttle now hooked up and set. So everything is looking good there. Now I've just run across another problem that I didn't anticipate, which is going to require another new part. So here are the choke cables for the triple Webers, and these are... Alright guys, now Tuesday after work and picking it up where we left off. Unfortunately I ran out of memory in my memory card in the camera, so we missed a few steps along the way. But as you can see, we've got the K&N air filters on, and they look good. And I've adjusted the idle slightly, and everything is running well now. So happy with the look of those. Still undecided on the blue hoses, but everything is hooked up and working as it should. So we're good to go as far as the carburetors are concerned. So we'll do a few other jobs that are on the list, and getting closer to getting it out the door and on its way to being aligned. I've got to take it to a shop to get a 4-wheel alignment, and then get it safetied and on the road. Alright, it's running pretty well. I just took it for a quick trip around the block carefully. Both my trim rings for the headlights fell off after I hit a big bump. So we've got to fix those. Seems to be running much better on the Stromberg carbs versus the Webers. So, a bit of a burble back here. We're definitely going to have some bugs to work out, but we'll work through them as they crop up. I'm sure that we'll be some along the way, like trim rings popping off. Hope there's nothing major, but it's running. That's a good thing. Maybe one more trip around the block, and we'll put it back in the garage and figure out how to keep those trim rings from popping off. Alright guys, I think we're going to put an end to this video. There's still a few little things I need to do, but I'm not going to include them in this video. This video is probably random and rambling enough. So anyway, one more casualty of my drive around the block. I've lost my my radiator shield on the right hand side here. Has come detached from the radiator. So that's kind of precipitated to get me to do something I've been thinking about for a little while. As you can see, you may not remember, but this is the original rad from this car that I had pressure tested, cleaned, and painted. And it certainly shows the battle scars. The fins were never able to be straightened properly from where it looks like the fan had hit them at some point. So I've actually broken down, and I've got myself a new aluminum rad coming, so that is on its way to me. And as part of that, we're going to probably get rid of these cardboardy shrouds on the side. And I've actually ordered a polished stainless steel radiator shroud from Good Parts that'll cover up that big gigantic opening in front of the radiator, much like I have on the TR6 over here. So I've never liked that open space in the front of the TR250, so hoping that a radiator shield from Good Parts will make that area clean up a little bit. So we've got that coming as well. We did also order the choke cable from Good Parts as well, so we've got that winging its way. So once I get those things in, we'll go ahead and install them on the car. That's not going to keep me from taking this car up to get certified, and I'm hoping to do this, like I'd mentioned, possibly by the end of this week. I've sent an email to a local shop here to see if they can do the alignment for me. It looks like they work on classic cars, so it looks like the right place to take it to. I'll just have to do a little bit more research and wait for a response from them to see if they can actually get the car in this week. So that's it for now, guys. So like I said, we'll wrap this video up and we'll start a new one and figure out a bunch of other little things to do on this car, getting it ready for the road. Thanks for watching.